Hello, friends, and welcome to a new YouTube segment that I'm going to call My Journey with Jesus. God has laid it on my heart recently to use my YouTube channel to talk about my journey with Him throughout my daily life. In fact, this was one of the intentions I had at the very beginning of my YouTube streaming experience, and I procrastinated. And actually, this past week in the sermon in my church, the Pastor Nick in the beginning of his sermon said, do more stuff for God, and he listed off a few examples. And one of the things he said was, if you've got a YouTube channel that just covers your hobbies or something, use that to declare your faith. And so that was just a hot poker right between the eyes for me. And so here I am doing my journey with Jesus. And thank you all for checking this out. I'm just going to spend once a week 10 or 15 minutes reflecting on my Christian walk and the Christian life in general, personal experiences I've had, reflections on what God is teaching me in particular areas of my life, whether that be through reading the Bible, through my prayer time, through listening to sermons with some of the great Bible teachers we have at High Point, and other teachers that I listen to, fellowshipping with other believers in small group, and my newest pursuit now is the study of theology as a distance learning student through the Moody Bible Institute. Just getting started with that this week, and that may be a source of some interesting experiences to share in the weeks to come. So that is what we are getting into with the My Journey with Jesus segments. Today I'm going to discuss just who I am and my spiritual background. What better way to introduce a new series than to just start from the beginning. I was raised in a Christian family with two wonderful, wonderful parents. My mother was one of the most loving human beings I've ever met in my life, possibly second only to my lovely wife Sharon. I was blessed with a very loving mother and a very loving wife, and truly blessed on a number of levels. My father was a very studious man, and a very hardworking man, and a very thoughtful man. And I was about 8 years old when Dad set me down and shared the gospel with me. And by virtue of how he presented the gospel to me and how he lived his life, I was happy to receive Christ into my heart at the age of 8. And that was a wonderful time. I had a wonderful upbringing, lots of experience in church, lots of experience in the choirs, and lots of experience seeing the Christian life lived out in my home through my very dedicated father and my very loving mother. So those years were a great blessing. And then in 1981, in April of 1981, I turned 17 years old. And 6 weeks later, I left home to go to college. College was about 2.5 hours from home. It was the first time I'd ever lived independently. And it didn't take me long to realize that I was going to have to make my own decision about my lifestyle in regards to my faith, in regards to my study habits, in regards to my interactions with other people. I had been raised with a lot of great values, but I realized that I needed to decide those things for myself as I entered my adult life. And kind of the way I personified that in my college years was just by watching people around me. I entered college in the summer of 1981 in an accelerated academic program. And I was surrounded by very, very intense people and very, very smart people from day one. And I observed that on any given Sunday morning, one of three things were going to happen to my college classmates. One group was going to be sleeping in, oftentimes hungover, or just up all night partying on Saturday night and sleeping in on Sunday to recover from the party scene. There was another group that was going to be up with the librarians on Sunday morning and spending that whole day and maximizing the time they spent on studies. And a third group was going to be getting up on Sunday mornings and going to church. There were a number of us that were going to church, but a number of folks that were going to the library, and a number of folks that were going out on Saturday nights and sleep in on Sundays. And I knew that I needed to find my identity in one of those lifestyles. And admittedly, through my college years, I did choose the late night Saturday night option a few more times than I cared to, or that I probably should have, and came to realize that there was no fulfillment in that for me. There was no joy in being up on Saturday nights and drinking too much beer and chasing too many girls, and the party scene just didn't have it for me. And that the faith scene was really where it was going to be at. And so I began to turn my focus to Christianity and ask myself the question, what is this thing? I know the principles that Dad taught me, and I know the principles that were preached in my churches growing up, but I also realized that it's not going to be about following what Dad believed or following what Mom believed. I needed to really examine the whole notion of Christianity for myself. I was very blessed to be around some very smart people who took their faith very seriously and could communicate that faith in ways that I had not previously experienced on an intellectual level. And I owe a good debt of gratitude to this fella by the name of Josh McDowell. Josh McDowell is a Christian speaker, and for those of you who were around back in the 80s, you may remember this book that he wrote called Evidence That Demands a Verdict. And that was a book and an experience that had a profound influence on my thinking. Josh McDowell started his career as an intellectual and as an atheistic thinker, and after being challenged by some of his Christian classmates, he set about, from a scholarly and academic research point of view, he set himself to the task of disproving the claims of Christianity on an intellectual basis. And he did volumes and volumes of research, compiled his notes, and prepared every argument that he could think of to counteract the claims of the Christians that were around him. And after all of his research and all of his study and analysis, he came to the conclusion that believing the Christian message was intellectually the most rational position when compared to other positions such as atheism or skepticism or humanism or whatever other worldviews he experimented with, and compared that to his conclusion was that his studies led him to conclude that from the standpoint of intellectual rationality, Christianity was the most plausible explanation for the universe. Josh McDowell came to the University of Akron and gave a weekend seminar during my freshman year of college. And as a result of that seminar and continuing to study evidence that demands a verdict and continuing to talk to very, very smart people who were people of faith and to talk to very, very smart people who weren't people of faith. And I explored lots of different worldviews with lots of different people and became convinced that the Christian walk was not only intellectually sound, but also morally and philosophically the way I wanted to live my life. So it was during the college years that I made my adult decision to commit my life to Christ. And although I did have some ups and downs along the way, especially later in my college and medical school years, I have been walking with the Lord consistently as an adult since 1982. So that's coming up on 30 years now of my adult life. Let's do the math here. It's 2020, coming up on 38 years, 1982, coming up on 40 years of my adult walk with Christ. And it has been a blessed life indeed. I have been very blessed as a Christian. I mentioned my marriage and my family, how blessed I am to have met my wife in 1987 and married her in 1989. And we just celebrated 30 years of wonderful marriage. We've had our issues along the way, and we have been able to love each other and survive and thrive through good times and bad, and we've been blessed with lots of good times. My educational career was wonderful. As I mentioned, I enrolled in an accelerated academic program, and largely, entirely upon the power of God of bringing me to that program to start with and helping me through that program, both in terms of the academic rigors and the personal rigors and fatigue and loneliness and depression that I dealt with during those very grueling medical school years. God pulled me through all that and brought me to my medical degree in 1987 and directed my footsteps to Dayton, Ohio in 1997 when I completed my medical degree and had ideas of going back to Columbus, but God directed my steps to Dayton, Ohio, and I remained there until 2010, which is a whole other story. Let's see, we are at 13 minutes, so that's enough about that. Next time we get together, we'll pick up with how I went from medical school into adulthood, marriage, family, teaching career, second career, and what lies ahead. But we will suspend the story here at the 15-minute mark. And next Monday night, I will come back and we'll talk some more. So thank you for listening. If you hit the like button to let me know that you were here, I would appreciate that. If you hit the subscribe button and the little bell next to the subscribe button, then you will get notifications whenever I come on to my YouTube channel. As you'll come to find out, my YouTube channel has several facets to it. My walk with Jesus is the newest. I also do a lot of sports gaming online in the section of my channel I like to call the Epic Sports Broadcasting Network. And some of you may be sports broadcasting fans who stumbled into this web broadcast just by accident, and thank you for coming. Feel free to leave comments. If you are encouraged by this, please say so. If you have questions, please say so. If you disagree with me, please say so. I'm going to leave the comments open for now. And I trust that the comments won't be too inflammatory. If you're here, we're probably friends through Facebook or through hobbies or through some other connection. I am happy to have rational and peaceable discussions with anybody who shares a different worldview from my own. And so feel free to speak freely in your comments, but flame wars and inflammatory stuff and things I don't want to entertain in this channel. And if it comes down to too many flames and too much inflammatory debate going on in the comments, we'll just shut the comments down and share my own thoughts from week to week. But would love to have your comments. Would love to have you like and subscribe. And we'd love to see you again next week. And until then, God bless you all and go in peace.